Hey everybody! We're back to talk about the second Mummy movie, and that is The Mummy, a British Hammer production made in 1959, starring Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, and George Pastelis. Compared to the other Mummy movie we just reviewed, this was more serious and richer and more complete. However, it also had its flaws, which we'll talk about later. Set in Egypt 4,000 years ago, the high priest of the great god Karnak is heartbroken because his beloved princess Ananka has died. Although even when she was alive, they were not allowed to be together according to Egyptian culture. Well, since she's dead, he decides to bring her back from the dead, which is called blasphemous according to the narrator in the movie trailer, which, by the way, I watched after seeing the movie. The high priest is played by Christopher Lee, who then, because he did something blasphemous, gets his tongue cut out and endures the rest of the process of becoming a mummy, and he is sentenced to be Princess Ananka's protector forever. And 4,000 years later, we have two archaeologists who are brothers who have come to excavate the tomb of Princess Ananka, and they get a double surprise. Not only is her body there, but also the body of the high priest. Before the Archies complete their excavation, Mehmet Bey, a modern-day Egyptian played by George Pastelis, warns them to stop excavating, saying, "He who robs the graves of Egypt dies." Meanwhile, while one of the Archies gets killed by the high priest's mummy, Christopher Lee, what is Peter Cushing doing? He plays John Banning, a son of one of the Archies who were in the mummy's tomb. Fortunately, though, he was sidelined by serious injury and unable to participate in the dig. But since he's related to one of the archaeologists, he will become a target of the mummy's wrath later on. Okay, Marco, would you like to say anything? Do you want to talk about Peter Cushing? Do you want to talk about this mummy? How did this mummy, who's Christopher Lee, compare to that other mummy who I don't even know who played that mummy, actually?
Well, this mummy was quite good. He had this commanding presence of, even though he didn't say anything, he just walked around and killed people. Well, killed specific people. And the movie was very... It didn't have any surprises, was the problem.
Well, I thought it was a surprise for the Archies to find two mummies instead of one. But that wasn't much of a surprise for us.
I already saw that in the trailer, which I'm going to talk about now. Okay, so the trailer decides to give the whole movie away.
And Marco saw the trailer before he saw the movie, right?
Yeah, and I don't know what they're thinking. Show the whole movie in the trailer. And so I was not surprised, shocked at all. I was very bored, honestly. Very, very bored. Except for some of the kills. Some of the kills were really cool. The mummy himself was really cool.
Well, Christopher Lee has a commanding presence because of his height and his look and his face.
Yeah, he looks really good as the mummy. I like how his eyes look, and how he's like this slender, perfectly dressed mummy, like perfectly dressed. and bandages, and the love interest is really dull and uninteresting. She's basically a plot device. I mean, I'm not gonna say anything about that. I was just gonna say something. I decided not to about her. And Peter Cushing was very dull. He was kind of a generic British guy who just happened to be the son of an archaeologist and just happened to be in the plot.
Well, Peter Cushing usually plays
The
a
hero.
hero, and in this case, he was more of
An,
following the party line. That's the way I call it.
an establishment
Yeah.
soldier.
Yeah.
And, ugh.
Which is kind of,
And they
but
treat
not
it.
too bad. I mean, he still is Peter Cushing, and we like him.
They treat it still like he's the good guy, and he's not the good guy at all. Which was another problem. We're not in the perspective of the good guy. We're in the perspective of all the nice little English people who just want to go to Egypt and take everything there.
But they let them.
It's
Though,
really
back
all
then.
theirs.
But they let them, and that it's changed now. There's a lot more control over things like that. Even in our own country, when archaeologists, if they want to excavate the remains of prehistoric Native Americans or any Native Americans, it's highly protected, and it may be that they won't even get to. But it's everything in connection with that is very highly controlled now. But it used to be, just like Marco said, archaeologists went over there to Egypt and took everything and took it back, took it away to their own countries, and that's not. I agree with Marco. We don't like that. We didn't agree with that. But anyway, do you want to say anything else about Peter
Boring.
Cushing? Well,
Boring.
problem with Marco, it's like he said, he watched the trailer before he watched the movie.
It's still boring.
And that gave a lot away. Me, I watched it after, so I can see that could be, after seeing the trailer and having watched the movie, I could see how it could be a problem.
It's the equivalent of Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, if you've seen that.
Not how bad it is, but just how everything's in the trailer, and then the movie, I mean, there's no surprises at all.
Okay, well, I just want to talk about my favorite part of the movie is Mehmet Bey's speech to Peter Cushing about why excavating Egyptian tombs is a bad thing. It's a very long and eloquent speech, and I really loved it. And that is another thing about this movie that's different from the other. Not just the speech itself, because that's a total entity unto itself. And that is the dialogue was a lot better in this movie. But it's a different kind of movie. It's not a comedy movie. It was more of a drama horror movie. So, of course, it would be different in that way. But I love this, and that's why I think other people, if they reviewed the movie, they wouldn't even mention this guy. But
he's the best part of the movie.
He's really the best part, because you really paid attention, and you really like, oh my God, you're right about what he said about, and it was I don't think that guy's Egyptian, but I mean, if he was,
I don't really care,
and it doesn't matter, but I mean, I think other Egyptians, if they would see that, they would probably agree with what he said.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminded me, and I'll just say it real quick, in the 70s I went to a archaeological site, and I was working on a sister site, much bigger site. They were just digging for artifacts that were from a site that was 7,000 to 8,000 years old, and I'm talking about pipes and potsherds and other things like that. This site that we visited, this was a site for physical anthropologists. They are the ones who studied bodies, and they were excavating a prehistoric Native American site, and I didn't like it. I didn't like that they were I thought, this is actually somebody's grave, and they're going to dig it up and take all the bones away and any artifacts it's buried with. And even though it's prehistoric, meaning it was several thousand years old, I didn't like it. I wouldn't want anybody to dig up my ancestors unless I gave permission for to do. This was a research school for the summer. It was like a summer school site, which is what I was doing. It was a summer school project. Anyway, so it reminded me of that, the speech the guy gave about excavating these tombs and how it really would be better to just leave them alone. It's kind of like a desecration and a disrespect for the people who are buried there. So,
And then Peter Cushing goes on to bash his religion.
and that's not right
and call him
either.
a savage.
Yeah, that's bad. That's like what would you call that? Well, it's kind of racist, but it's also a colonialist. It's like a colonialist attitude. I don't care for that. So, anyway, do you want to review it now, or do you have anything else to say about it?
It's a pretty average horror movie. It's not terrible. It's probably one of the better Mummy adaptations. I mean, better Mummy renditions, I guess you'd say. It's better than Cafe Claris.
The
It's better than
Mummy's definitely better than the other
it's
movie.
better than those boring black and white mummy movies where you fall asleep and then you wake up and it's over. I mean, and that's not saying very much though. So I would give this movie a I would give this movie generic potato soup with lots of chives on top and very little seasoning. And since the Egyptian guy's the best part of this boring meal, I would make him like some sort of a special spicy bread roll on the side. Like some really special spicy thing, and you dip it in the soup, and it would make it a little bit better than, gross potato soup usually is.
Okay, well, I thought it was a satisfying story. I'm not saying it's the greatest story, but it was satisfying because all the parts were connected together. It had a beginning, a middle, and the end, whereas the other one was very disjointed and bumpy. And Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing are were the most amazing actors, and they both did a great job in the movie. And as well as this George Pastelis, who had a much smaller role than they did, but no less significant. And I gave it a medium well cooked ribeye steak dinner with green beans and a baked sweet potato in honor of George Pastelis' amazing speech near the end of the movie. So, do you want to say anything about the spoilers?
did you did you get
Well, I thought it's just like you. You said something about something
a spicy
spice.
bread roll? No,
Spicy bread roll. Well, I'm giving him
are you,
a baked sweet potato because
are you
people usually order a russet baked potato, but a sweet potato is special
are you
and
saying
different.
are you saying that this guy looks like a sweet potato?
No, I'm saying it was to honor his speech,
Okay.
and that it stuck out and made it even better, the the movie better. And
This movie should have been from his perspective.
yeah, they could have done that. They could have done the whole thing oriented toward his perspective. It might have even made it. It well, probably
It would have made it a
better.
lot better.
Instead of making it about
Peter
we're
Cushing.
British and we can go in
We're
and
cool
we can
British
take those
people.
bodies and if nothing's going to stop us, not even a mummy who walks around, he's protecting the body from being taken out of the
Who cares about other cultures? We're the modern British, and everything's about us.
and this is 1959 too. But anyway, for the spoiler alerts, the mummy in the end, he remember how I said that Peter Cushing was supposed to be playing the son of one of the archaeologists who was excavating the tomb, and he had gotten a serious injury, and that confined him to a tent, and so he could not participate in the dig. Remember when I said that? Well, and then I said that didn't matter because the mummy, the modern Egyptian guy, makes this fantastic speech. He orders the mummy to go after Peter Cushing and kill him because he's related to the Archies.
Are we in the spoilers now?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, that's good.
And so when the mummy comes over and fights Peter Cushing, he sees his wife. Well, guess who his wife is? She is a direct look-alike for Princess Ananka. So what happens?
How surprising.
How surprise! And then guess what the mummy does? This is like, I don't know, probably other monster movies. You see some girl who's special and take her away, and so he takes Mrs. Banning, Peter Cushing's wife, away because she looks exactly like Princess Ananka. Because you know what? The same actress played both parts.
Yeah, which is
So-
cool.
And tell them what happens when he takes his wife away.
All right, so we're gonna have this climactic scene. He takes her to the swamp. He walks in slowly to the swamp.
And the
Well,
fog
Peter
is rising
Cushing-
above.
Shoots him a million times, and he already knows that he's not going to get hurt because shooting cannot stop a mummy, which he already knows, but he's still shooting. And then he walks deep into the place, and then somehow the girl escapes, and oh boy, she's with Peter Cushing, and ooh, look at these two British people. They get to be happy forever, and there's nothing ever that's going to happen wrong to them again.
Well, what happens to the mummy?
And then the mummy just
I think he sinks in quicksand then or something.
sinks into the ground and
and he's
in
gone.
the pool of quicksand, and then that's the end. What? Right there, that's the end. Come on.
And that's it.
A heartbroken mummy sinks into quicksand. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, he doesn't get his princess and he doesn't get the guy's wife. I mean, come on, really?
I think that he should have killed Peter Cushing's wife because Peter Cushing deserved it.
Marco, I don't
He was a
agree.
huge, excuse my language, he was a huge jackass in this movie, and he deserved to lose his wife.
Well, whatever. We
And that
we
my
liked the
favorite-
movie. It was okay.
My favorite scene of the movie is in the mental institution
Oh yeah,
when the old man is put into a cell because he
the
was,
Archie. This is one of the Archies, right?
because he was disruptive in his actual room. He was put in a cell, and so now when he yells for help, nobody's gonna come after him because they know that he's insane and that he's just having hallucinations. So the mummy comes over and he just breaks open the cell bars and just leaps in and goes right up to him and strangles him to death.
Well,
And nobody helps him because he is calling for help and it doesn't work.
okay. Well, just to be fair, they told him not to do that because nobody would hear him because of his location. They told him to press the bell on the wall, and he forgets about that. And instead, his natural reaction is to go there and go, "Help! Help! Here comes the money! It's coming to get me!" and then the mummy's just like walking into the. He rips off the iron bars off the window, rips the whole window apart like it's nothing, and was climbing in, and he's yelling for help. And then he goes, "Oh yeah, that's right. I was supposed to press the button on the wall, the bell." Well, he runs over, and as he starts pressing, the mummy grabs him and
Just to
bye
point
bye.
out, just to point out the flaw in your argument, other people around him could have heard him screaming and pressed the bell themselves. Oh, see that? I just got you. You didn't think about that, did you?
Well, I don't know who's around him or if anybody's
No.
around him for sure. But we're not shown
But
that.
still, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, it is because it's like if mummy wants to get you, then you can't escape him. And the only reason why Peter Cushing escaped him because he was trying to strangle Peter Cushing.
Well, he
Yes, he
was
saw his
strangled by
wife.
Peter Cushing.
Right, and if the only reason why Peter Cushing escaped was that his wife says, "What the heck's going on here?" and going, "Ah!"
She
And he-
just stands
and he
there,
looks over
and
at the mummy looks at him and
her.
goes, "Oh my God, that's Princess Anaka. She's got on a modern day dress, and that's my love of my life." And he runs after her.
And she just, I mean, that's got to be one of the most random moments in movie history of the love interest just walking into the room and magically she resembles the girl, and the mummy's like, ooh.
Yeah,
I mean, he
he's
has
just like,
that
ooh.
look.
And the whole movie, the mummy has this mean look on his face. It
But
never
At
changes.
that time, he's like, ooh.
But yeah, his eyes go, ooh. They go up. And they're like, ooh, just like Marco said. And he's the girl. Even when they show him 4,000 years before and he has this costume on,
He has this terrible,
candle.
serious look always on his face.
He didn't even have this ooh look back then. He had this one look, and then at the end of the movie, where there was this ooh look. So, I think we're done now, right?
Well, no, at the end, I guess he had a little bit of a, oh, I failed and I'm heartbroken look up to
I
the
lost
sky.
her again.
So, three eye expressions the whole movie. Pretty cool. So yeah, goodbye.
Goodbye.